Hello, welcome to the session on education during colonial ruling in India. Introduction of education to Indians during colonial period. There had been an educational system in India before the advent of the British East India Company. The system was supported by indigenous rulers, landlords and partisans. The medium of education was the regional vernacular languages and had been imparted through pathshalas, gurukuls, madrasas and temples. The British ruled India from early 19th century till independence. Nearly two-thirds of Indian subcontinent was under the direct control of the British. The remaining territories were under the rule of various native kings who deferred to the British in terms of defense and foreign policy. These regions were known as princely states and ruled by Rajas, Maharajas, Ranas, Nawabs, etc. They were given the authority for taking decisions on local affairs, including provision of schooling within the strict supervision of the British officials appointed by the colonial state. The East India Company did not aim the education of Indians for the development of India. The company's prime interests were trade and profit only. They neither interested in indigenous education systems which were in practice in India nor in a new system. The government was running various departments with English educated officers as administrators from their country and high salary was paid for them. The expansion of British Empire necessitated more administrators. Payment of hefty salary to English officers stood as a threat to the economic condition of the whole empire. The officers and administrators also found difficulty in communicating with the natives through English. Most of the officials were not only ignorant and illiterate in the diverse regional languages, but also in the native lingua franca. The company's rules, regulations and orders to the natives were all in English, and they found that the natives were reluctant and ignorant to obey them. This was not merely a resistance, but was also understood as a result of the failure of the natives in understanding the language English, through which the government was communicating. At this juncture, they thought of educating Indians in order to fulfill the company's various requirements. They found indigenous education as inferior in producing efficient administrative people. Difference of opinion existed regarding the system of education to be adopted among the British themselves. Some argued that the education should be in the regional languages, whereas some others insisted that it should be in English to serve their interests. Amidst these controversies, Lord Macaulay, who was entrusted to conduct a detailed study regarding Indian education scheme, submitted his famous Minutes on Education during 1835. Macaulay was of the opinion that Indian literature, both in Sanskrit and Arabic, is of less value. The Indian literature as a whole, he commended, would not be as valuable as a shelf of Western books kept in a library. Further, he mentioned in the minutes that with English education, a class of persons, Indian in color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals and in intellect, could be formed from locals. The main intention of the bill was to educate Indian in the European way or to westernize Indians, to prepare Indians ready for the government jobs of the ruling British, to save money through paying a comparatively less salary for the educated Indian officials, to moralize Indians, to inculcate obedience and discipline among the natives. Macaulay's bill was implemented and importance was given to higher education to serve the purpose of British rulers. Education in primary level was totally neglected. The facilities were opened in a wide range for the people coming under upper caste. Girls' education also was given least preference. Structure of education. In 1861, the British started central provinces under specific administrations. Programs for development of health and education were given top priority locally. Structure of education was closely related to the British model. Only the upper segment of the society got the full benefit of implementation. One of the most significant things the British did to westernize India was to introduce English education. They made little attempt to collect information from pre-British local government institutions which conducted indigenous education, because they found indigenous education worthless in educating Indians. Instead, they established municipal committees, district councils and a provincial council. These institutions were expected to be financially self-supportive, which indeed reduced their efficiency in establishing educational institutions. The primary level education was entrusted on such local authorities. This was one of the reasons for the underdevelopment of primary level education. Moreover, as hinted previously, the main intention of education was to get good workers to run the British offices and trade units like tile factory, textile factory, etc. The following points may be specially noted as the characteristic features showing cultural inheritance of India before the British rule. Court language used during the Mughal ruling period was Urdu, which is a mixture of Persian, Arabic and Sanskrit. Higher education was for specialized subjects for which Arabic or Sanskrit were compulsory. But by the introduction of English based education, as per Macaulay's bill, the medium of education was changed to English. Many schools preferred their medium of instruction as English, while some schools chose vernacular languages. The education system introduced then consisted first 4 classes as elementary, next 3 classes as middle school. This was either Middle English or Middle Vernacular, depending upon the medium of instruction. Next 3 standards as upper middle or high school. First in arts prior to graduation level, Bachelor of Arts graduation level, Master of Arts highest level or post graduation. This is almost identical to the contemporary system of education in practice. In districts with higher level of upper caste sectors, they preferred secondary and higher education institutions only. Due to these reasons, mass education never got attention. Sir Charles Wood, who was the Secretary for Education during 1850s, sent suggestions to the British East India Company regarding the necessity of development in Indian educational system. As a result of this, Wood's dispatch from 1860s onwards, the educational institutions received funds for their running through the grant-in-aid system of government. Private organizations also were largely encouraged to enter into educational field. The new system of education brought a remarkable increase in the number of schools with medium of instruction as English. Primary schooling did not develop even though compulsory education was recommended in government level. The decision to levy fees, despite the fact that sometimes it was very nominal, stood as an obstruction to the implementation of compulsory education. Wood's dispatch is a long report of 100 paragraphs in which All the important educational points have been dealt in detail. In short, the main features of the dispatch are as follows: the acceptance of educational responsibility. The dispatch for the first time clearly accepted that the responsibility of education in India lies on British government. The aim of education. The aim of education is to raise intellectual fitness and moral character. Course of study. Mr. Wood had recognized the usefulness of Sanskrit, Arabic and Persian and recommended them as subjects of study in regular institutions. Finally, like Macaulay, he had also recognized the usefulness of Western knowledge for Indians. The medium of instruction. The dispatch says that due to dearth of course books in Indian languages, the medium of education should be English, but this should be used in education by those people who have proper knowledge of English and are able to understand the European knowledge through this language. Department of Public Instruction. The dispatch declared that in all the provinces, the Department of Public Instruction should be set up. Its highest official should be designated as the Director of Public Instruction, and he should be assisted by Deputy Director, Inspector and Deputy Inspector of Schools. Establishment of universities. The dispatch has suggested for the setting up of the universities at Calcutta, Bombay and Madras, and if necessary at other places too. The other recommendations are establishment of regular institutions, extension of public education, grant in aid system, training of the teachers, education of women, Muslim education, vocational education, encouragement of the Oriental education and educational service. Contributions of missionaries and princely states in Indian education. The various Christian missionaries who had started working in India well before the colonial state contributed commendably towards the educational field of India. The areas concentrated for work by most of the missionaries were Calcutta, Madras and Bombay, which were directly under the control of the British. Most missionary educational institutions were opened only in mission stations where British officials were large in number. Separate schools were opened for the education of children of the British officers and for the locals. Initially, the British were reluctant to support the efforts of missionaries financially, though the prime intention of the missionaries was to convert the locals to Christians. Undoubtedly, their work in the area of education enriched the development of modern education in India. The doors of their schools were opened to all kinds of people, including the untouchable castes who had been denied education hitherto by the upper caste people of the society. After the issue of the Wood's dispatch, they also got grant in aid from government for running the schools. In rendering education for socially and economically backward classes, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and girls, the service of missionaries is quite remarkable. Some important missionaries whose contributions are recorded in golden letters in Indian history are the Baptist Mission Society (BMS), the Church Mission Society (CMS), the London Mission Society (LMS), the Scottish Mission Society, the Franciscan Mission of Mary (BMS). During 1818-1830, three Baptist Missionary Society members, famous as Serampore Trios, namely William Carey, Joshua Masham and William Watt, launched the Serampore College at West Bengal. The system of teaching in this college was mainly religious, and vernacular languages were used as medium of instruction. The Baptist Missionary Society members concentrated their work mainly at Bengal, Agra, Bihar, Patna, etc. Carey and Mushman did not have faith in the downward filtration theory of education. The people acquiring higher education should transmit the knowledge to those who do not have education. This was the logic behind neglecting the primary education. They maintained that primary level education should be encouraged and the medium of instruction should be the mother tongue. Their projects became successful and 103 educational institutions were founded for elementary education purpose. In this stream, Robert May, who belonged to London Missionary Society, introduced the first chain of village schools in Hooghly. 36 elementary schools were opened for this purpose simultaneously by him. CMS. Though the first two CMS missionaries arrived in Madras in 1814, the headquarters of CMS was in Calcutta. They began to work in North India in the area of education, printing, and establishment of mission stations. In South India, CMS worked vigorously in Tinnevelly, now known as Tirunelveli, and Travancore. CMS were the first to introduce education for female members of society. As per the call of brothers, Mary and Cook, later came to be known as Mrs. Wilson, arrived in India 1822. As a member of Church Mission Society, within 1 year she established 15 schools in Calcutta and nearby places for girls. CMS had established a boarding school named Alexandra School for girls at Amritsar. They established schools at Bengal, Agra, Chunar, and Meerut. In 1939, they founded Sara Tucker College for Women at Palankota. The Christian Missionary Society and the Baptist Missionary Society also imparted education to myriad tribes, that too in their mother tongue. LMS. The London Mission Society sent out Reverend John Apps to South Travancore in 1845 for missionary work. He spent 22 years there working in the areas of education, religion, and health. Between 1814 and 1818, LMS had opened 36 schools in and around Chinsura in the vernacular medium. The Scottish Missionary. During 1830-1885, Scottish missionary Alexander Duff, who wanted to westernize the education system, founded the Scottish Church College at Bengal. This English medium school, which was later expanded to a college, was utilized by numerous middle class youths of Calcutta. The Franciscan Missionary. The Franciscan Missionary of Mary, FMM, in 1877 founded a school for the girls of European families settled near Nilgiris in Madras. Simultaneously, a new school for the poor locals also was opened by them. Here, both Tamil and English were taught. This institution was later known as Nazareth Convent School. Following to this, many educational institutions starting from primary level to college were opened subsequently. The FMM opened their first college in Chennai in 1890. In the northeast part of India also, missionaries took effort to establish educational institutions. For instance, Don Bosco University was established at Guwahati in Assam. The Congregation of Jesus and Mary (CJM) worked among the people of the hilly areas in Himachal Pradesh and founded St. Bede's College for their education 1 century back itself. In Kerala, which stands first in literacy among other states in India, the role of missionaries in universalizing education is very important. Many famous educational institutions were founded by Christian missionaries. Protestant missionaries from Germany and England opened educational institutions including English grammar schools. Valuable services for the improvement of Malayalam also were recorded by members of such missionaries. Arnos Pathiri, Anglio Francis and Dr. Gundet are only some among those rendered substantial contributions to the regional language Malayalam. Princely states, the Marathas in West India, Mysore, rulers and princes of Travancore in South India, Sikhs in North India, were the main kings of princely states in India. The princes who ruled these regions had put sincere efforts for the development of educational status of their subjects. Thomas Munro, who was the governor of Madras Presidency, studied about the state of education there and found that the condition was pitiable due to the poverty and indifference from governance. He tried his level best to uplift this condition by establishing schools in each collectorate and tahsils for backward Hindu classes and Muslims. With the help of the rulers in the princely state, he was able to do this to a certain extent in the Madras Presidency. In Kerala, the Travancore rulers who were in reign made much commendable contributions towards the development of education. Rani Lakshmi Bai, who was in power of Travancore state during the early 19th century, helped the missionary works of CMS, which led to the foundation of CMS College in Kottayam in 1816. Subsequently, Gauri Parvati Bai, who came in power, set up schools in vernacular languages through a declaration and insisted compulsory attendance between the age group 4 to 10. This can be treated as a revolutionary step towards a free and compulsory education which has to be materialized yet. Positive and negative aspects of colonial education. The education system started during colonial period has got both merits and demerits. The notable positive aspects of it can be listed in short as, to a certain extent, it could make education accessible to the people who were quite marginalized in terms of caste and creed. The education of girls became very common and it was an important step in the empowerment of women. The establishment of educational institutions from primary level to professional level started flourishing with the recognition and financial aid from governance. The importance of literacy is understood among all classes of the society. The chances open for higher education and to attain respectable jobs uplifted the economic status. Many people belonging to scheduled caste tribe were deprived of the opportunities for education because of the rigid caste system. Social evils like untouchability were on the peak. The educational reforms imparted by the British and the works of missionaries helped much for the upliftment of the status of marginalized sections. Girls were denied facilities for getting educated. The changed atmosphere promoted women's education to a considerable level. A general awareness regarding the importance of getting educated was created among the people of all levels of the society. This in turn led to the efforts for spreading literacy. Even though the achievement in this field is not up to the mark yet, colonial period put a starting for this venture. With the elaborated chances of higher education, many youths were able to enter into government jobs. This in a way helped to raise the general economic status, especially of the middle class. The colonial period witnessed the birth of many valued social reformers who fought against the various discriminations existed in social life of India. Jyotiba Phule, born at Satara district of Maharashtra, is to be counted as the first among this list. He had put out all efforts to get rid of social evils created by the barricades of caste. His wife Savitri Bai Phule also took part in his social activities. In 1848, he founded a school for girls which had to face severe objections from upper caste people. Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar from Madras Presidency also is a notable name in this stream. Afterwards, the country witnessed numerous magnificent personalities who followed the path of these brave leaders like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Shahu Maharaj, etc. Some undesirable effects of the education system started during colonial period, which are prevailing still, are to be considered. Education became only a means for earning money through getting jobs. Blind admiration to Western way of life, literature, etc. Erosion of culture and lack of pride in one's own culture. Inculcating new social values. The British wanted Indians to get educated so that they could be able to communicate effectively in their language and entrust the administrative jobs for a comparatively lesser remuneration. But even after their leaving, the curriculum recommended by Macaulay is being followed to a considerable extent. The ultimate intention of education is considered to be for scoring marks and getting a job with lucrative salary. Introduction of Western education and learning of English have undoubtedly brought wonderful changes in the status of India. At the same time, ardent admiration to English made the people to undervalue their cultural heritage, literature, indigenous ways of medical practice, etc. existed in pre-British India. Let me summarize the session. In this unit, the educational developments in India during the colonial period is discussed in short. The impacts made by the British on Indian society, both positive and negative, are numerous. The education system which is in practice in the nation at present is unable to claim significant differences from that introduced by the British. But in universalizing education, this area has played a remarkable role. Almost all the leading educational institutions, especially of higher education, were established during this period. Despite the vested interests in terms of trade, religion, etc., many British personalities dedicated their life to the development of India, which was in the grip of many kinds of social evils. Strong desire of such magnificent personalities put the foundation stones of modern India. Now, you can attempt to answer the questions given here. Who was Macaulay? What were the main suggestions put forward by him? How was the girls' education encouraged in India during colonial period? Briefly explain the educational system created by the British. In what way the contribution of princely states becomes significant in education? Describe briefly the contributions of Serampore trios. Hope that you may go through the reference books listed here. Suresh Chandra, The History of Education in Modern India, 1757-1998, Orion Longman, Hyderabad, 2000. History of Indian Education by Ray B.C., Prakashan Kendra, Lucknow, 2007. Thank you for watching this program. We will meet again with another topic. Till then, take care.